This is Stranraer. This is a slipway at Stranraer Harbour, which is right at the bottom of Loch Ryan. We'll have a concrete ramp here leading to sand. Sand is quite soft, although the angle at the top appears quite steep. Just below the waterline there, it is very shallow. You could walk 100 yards and not even be in a foot of water. So this should be taken into account when launching boats. In my opinion, and a lot of opinions, this slip is not very well equipped and useful for launching, and really should be avoided. Sand is soft, and there's plenty of other launch sites, like I say, Wig Bay, Lady Bay and Loch Ryan. This should be avoided. Right, this is Wig Bay, between Stranraer and Kirkham. Wig Bay lies again on the western shore of Loch Ryan, but it's much more sheltered. Lady Bay, if you've got a northerly, it's slightly more protected by the scar that runs out between here and P&O. Just off the Wig slip lies a scar. The scar spit runs from the brick hut over here at the north all the way across to nearly Innermesson caravan site, which can be seen lying over there on the east side. The end of the scar is marked by the scar buoy, which is a blue turquoisey coloured buoy. You must always go on the Stranraer side of that buoy because it gets very shallow over the spit. Even at high water, it is not recommended that you cross it. Having said that, the scar gives some protection from the northerly winds, but Loch Ryan really is a no-go on a strong northerly. The wind comes down the loch, it acts like a wind tunnel, and it kicks up a considerable sea. On easterlies, southerlies to a degree, and westerlies, you will get plenty of protection, and it can be an ideal place to go if Luce Bay or the western shore into the Irish Sea is chopped up. The slipway here is in of poor condition, with large holes clearly visible on the ramp. Over the lower water periods, a lot of weed is left exposed. Care should be taken to drive on over this weed slowly, or you will slip and could end up getting stuck. Either side of the slip lies deep water, just over the concrete curb. Even in the low states of the tide, it'll run into 6-7 foot of water both sides, which is ideal for bringing your boat along, tying up and loading your gear and your crew aboard. Again, this is Wig Bay, another option for some sheltered days. This slipway was built for the Second World War to launch the flying boats which operated here in Loch Ryan. There's plenty of room here for parking, but care should be taken to watch out for nuts, bolts, sharp objects which are lying scattered around the slipway due to a large number of old boats and rubbish that is congregated here. This slipway is a launch at your own risk. There is gates at the entrance, but you can open those gates and drive through, but again, it's totally at your own risk, and any of us that launch here do so at their own risk, and the local farmer that has the ground surrounding this slipway will tell you that. Lady Bay on the western shore of Loch Ryan. We're here tonight to look at how easy it is to launch. Now, a few things to bear in mind here is, if you look, the ramp is very narrow, so larger boats such as Quicksilver pilot houses and arbours may struggle. Smaller vessels fine. As you approach the sand, the high water mark, you should always walk it, as local farmers clean their ploughs here, which can cause vehicles to get stuck and bogged down, and an incoming tide, that could be a nightmare. So care should be taken when leaving the concrete to make sure the sand is firm. Now, in terms of tide states, if you're coming at high water, it's very narrow and the turning at the top of the slipway is limited, so you may struggle. Half tide to low tide, there's plenty of room to turn on the beach and get launched. In terms of hazards, we need to watch out for the rocks on either side of the slipway. Now, straight out from the slipway, it's good clean ground, and as you, at low tide, as you get the boat off the trailer and motor out, you will notice the kilt beds, but there isn't any rocks in the kilt beds to be aware of. Once on the water, this venue is ideal for accessing the wrecks off Crosswell Point, the Ailsa Craig, the Mermaid Shoals, on up towards Ballantrae, some of the banks, and down into Darley Bay, and even onto the Bracks and Killantringan are only half an hour away, a reasonable cruising speed. The boats used to be a major problem here, but since the implementation of speed limits and the HSS Superfast leaving Loch Ryan, the wake isn't really much to be worried about, although the signs are still here and in place, and care should be taken when ferries are passing. Keep your boat bow on, don't get stern on to swells, or you could end up swamped, but not a problem as it has been in the past. So, as long as you take care on the sand, in case it's soft, if it's been ploughed, and watch out over the high water mark, as you might find it difficult to get turned, and larger boats should be aware of the narrow entrance into it. Right, this is the car parking here at Lady Bay. It's very, very limited. As you can see, some of it's just in the grass, and in certain times after a lot of rain it can be quite soft. There is a small section of gravel, but it's limited again. Coming off a slipway, there's a sharp right turn, and it is very hard to get around with the trailer. You'll need to pull straight forward and reverse back down around here, but again, coming back up and back down the slipway will be tricky. Take a bit of time to negotiate, so care must be taken. Portpatrick on the western shore. This is one of the venues that you would use to get out into the Irish Sea, to access again some wrecks, some great fishing on the banks for taupe, spurdog, huss, and all your different whitefish, pollock, wrasse, just about everything you could think of that could be caught in Scotland can be caught from this venue. The launch here, the sand is very, very soft at the bottom of the slipway, so great care should be taken not to get stuck. Once you leave the soft sand, you've got a section of stones. Again, launching into these stones is not recommended. This really is a low water launch and retrieve venue, so you can get down, turned and launched, or right at the top of the tide, so you could launch with a two-wheel drive vehicle using the metal bracket. Again, care needs to be taken on westerlies. Westerlies blow straight in here, and anything with north in it is going to be extremely exposed. This really is a place for an east wind or light winds, but again remember, a north wind in this area, if it's blowing 6 miles an hour, add 10 mile an hour onto it, it'll be blowing 16. Anything with north in it, there's nothing between us and Newfoundland, so the seas can be quite big and can be quite hairy. But again, easterlies or any light winds, fantastic. As you can see, there's a bracket here on the wall with a metal lip on it. You can put a D-shackle or a hook with a pulley on here, and you can run a rope from the slipway down through the pulley and then onto the water, which means that you can launch and retrieve with a family car or a two-wheel drive vehicle. But care should be taken, and remember, at low states of the tide, it's a hell of a long way for a bit of rope to go, so it's more for over the top of the tide. Another thing to note here is the ramp is very narrow. At the top of the ramp there's not a lot of room, and in the summertime Portpatrick is beyond busy. It is packed. Sometimes the ramp can get blocked even though it says keep clear. There's always people parking here, sitting here, having picnics here. It's hard work, especially with a trailer on. Parking, although today it's a cold day, beginning of September, it's a Tuesday night, there's not many people around. In a lovely day, it is packed with people. Parking can be quite tricky, you should take that into account. Great fishing to be had, but the venues, the water out here can be accessed just as easy from Port Logan, and it's much easier. As you can see, the orange mark here on the side of this building, just up from the harbour entrance, can be lined up with another orange mark on the face of the harbour wall, which is extremely obvious when entering the harbour. You will see the two lines. Line up the two orange lines, and that will give you the middle of the channel and access into Portpatrick Harbour. Next to the orange marker here, you can see the navigational lights, which can be used to enter the harbour at night. This is no more Mull Bay. This is one of the main launching sites in the whole of the southwest. This is one of the launch venues for the Mull of Galloway Sea Angling Festival, and it is a great sheltered place to launch. There's a few things to note. Must note the fact that the sand can be quite soft at times. You've got to watch what you're doing. When you're launching and you're on the sand at all, always turn your engine off. Slightest vibrations can cause you to sink in. Also, you need to watch for bits of water running down the beach. Try not to stop in these areas. Again, it'll cause you to bog down. Lower stages of the tide, half tide to the bottom of the tide, there is some rocks, and there are easily seen by the floating weed coming up off them. You must take care here because you can catch the skeg of your outboard. I know this personally because I done it about 4 weeks ago. So you need to watch. Also, you can catch the hull in it. Best thing to do is put a guy over 2 foot of water and walk the boat in. Also, you need to watch, there's a slight sandbar just at the mouth of the harbour. We've been doing a lot of dredging work lately, and the height of the sandbar's decreased. It's not as great as it was, but watch sort of mid-tide ranges coming over the top of there. Fantastic here if it's blowing a westerly, great bit of shelter. Mull Bay is really sheltered most of the time, apart from southerlies, anything but southerly in it. Unless it's light winds, I could going to chop up a little bit, but great for getting tucked in those wild days if you can't get out off Port Logan. Great great bit for fishing for tope, all your shark species, fantastic. The other launching site close to Drumore is Killstay Bay. We're just going to go there shortly and show you that. This is probably very similar to Killstay in terms of you need to watch the sand, but this is a better bet because there's always tractors in hand, always more boats here. You're right on the edge of the village. It's a safer bet. If you do get stuck, there's a farm at the top of the village as well. There's a local gentleman, Mr. Robert McGuffey, who's always on hand and watching, and he'll soon raise the alarm. This is Killstay Bay on the edge of Drumore. The slipway here lies about a mile to the north of the village. You pass right by it on your way into Drumore. Nice concrete ramp, a nice wide ramp on a reasonable angle approaching the beach. However, the sand below the ramp is quite soft, and you can see here it is waterlogged. And just moving your foot, it easily sinks in. Now a vehicle and trailer could sink in here in a matter of seconds. Next thing you know, you're stuck. Now there's not many tractors close by here, and if you get stuck you could easily be swamped if it was an incoming tide. Fine as long as you use your wits, don't leave your engine running and be in and out quick, but Drumore's a far better option. Also need to watch out on an onshore wind here. If you've got a big easterly wind here, it comes flying in, and actually the whole road here can get shut on big easterlies. So any east wind at high water, you get a big breakers and the boat's impossible to retrieve. Drumore's a much better option. If the wind picks up, you'll be able to retrieve your boat no problem. Fine if you know it, but for visiting anglers, it's worth a watching.